Then look, man, we get a women's match for the women's tag team unification match, man. We got Ronda Rousey.
Which wasn't a bad match.
Not at all. Versus Alba, Fyre, Isla, Dawn. Yo, actually, Alba, Fyre, Isla, Dawn, they actually dominated the majority of this match as Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey spent most of the time on the offensive, which I thought was, a very good way to go. One, you got Dawn and Fyre. They're a pretty good tag team. They're good, really good individually. And then when they put them together as a tag team NXT, they're really starting to catch fire before they got called up. And for a team like Baszler and Rousey, I really like how this match went because, on paper, you would look at this and just assume because it's Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler that they just going to run through any and everybody because that's what we got used to seeing. So I would say this, before I ask you about the match, I just want to give Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, both of these women, their flowers because they got the tag team championships. They fought for it. They wanted it to be taken seriously. We're going to get them defending on all three brands like Sasha and Bayley wanted to do in the first place. And I really think you can help elevate these women's tag team divisions all across the board. And I think Ronda Rousey, despite how we feel about her as a wrestler, she's still a huge name. And we already know what Shayna Baszler can do. She's got that, that credit. So, man, I want to ask you, I know you said you thought the match was pretty good, but overall, where do you see this tag team reign going with Baszler and Rousey in the future?
If possible, all the way to WrestleMania. But that's
okay.
That's
okay.
I mean, if you gonna try to
as the champs,
yeah.
Okay.
Because I feel like if you're gonna try to build a legit team to truly beat them, you're gonna have to build a legit team. I know Liv Morgan came back tonight. Okay, Liv and Gonzalez, cool. But I don't have Gonzalez staying in a tag team for very long. Like, I feel like very soon, maybe after they have a little rematch rivalry with Ronda and Baszler, I feel like after that, she's going to end up transitioning over to her singles run. Somebody to fight Raquel. I mean, not Raquel. She is Raquel. Somebody to either fight Ripley or depending on what happens between Charlotte, Asuka, and Belair, one of them three by the time we get to WrestleMania. So so that's where my standpoint is at. A second thing that the one thing I am a little disappointed about is that they didn't have the NXT women defending the championship enough. You drafted them to Smackdown. They could have defended the championship a little bit more on the show, or they could have been more on NXT. I feel like they didn't do. Like, they got drafted up and we barely seen them. I really feel like we barely seen them. So that's the kind of one thing I kind of hated about it. Cause like we didn't get enough of them. We didn't see enough of them. You could have showed a little bit more of them. So when we got the challenge, when we did, it didn't have to come out of nowhere. You could have kind of seen it coming because you had this new tag team that was drafted up and they're the champions when you got champions already. So it's like you could at least did that. You could have gave them a few more matches on SmackDown. And a couple of times they could have defended the championships just to build up that at least a little bit legitimacy. Because I don't think they had the titles for really a long time. Like, they had just really won them not too long ago before being drafted up. So it ain't like they were champions for like a year or so. Like, no, they had really just won them. And they didn't really do too much with them. But I feel like they could at least put them in a couple of tag team matches and did something with them. But overall, I like Amber Fyre. Dawn, I want to see more of her, but definitely want to give Ronda and Shayna their due. If they do what Sasha and Bayley was if they do what Sasha and Bayley weren't allowed to do, because it's not like they didn't want to, they wanted to do it, they just didn't make it happen.
Right.
Then I see this being pretty good, and maybe they'll lose, but I have a feeling they'll get the titles back, and I feel like it'll still come down to WrestleMania. Do you see WrestleMania? Where one night is all women's matches and one night is all men's.
That'd be different. I don't know logistically.
I won't say an entire night, but I will say maybe one night will have mostly women's matches. Like, because I don't think that they're not they're okay. They got enough women to keep you interested in the main women's titles. Okay, as far as WrestleMania being a big match, and they have a few talent like Raquel and others that are gonna come up or are coming up, so they'll get some type of opportunity or whatever. Now that you have the women's tag team belts, you can add that, but then I don't know how many too many one-on-one matches are going to be WrestleMania quality. I just be real, because not every dude is going to be on the show. Not every guy is going to be on the show. Only those with the quality of putting on a WrestleMania performance, because WrestleMania is a memorable moment where you want to remember almost any and everything, regardless of how good or bad it is. It's a memorable moment. So, you know, obviously, if you're that popular of a talent or you're that good of a talent, you're going to make the card. I don't think they have enough women for that, unless, which I don't see them doing, is if they stop doing NXT pay-per-views and added the women of NXT to the pay-per-view. Then yes, they can do an all-night women's one-night WrestleMania with all women if they added the women of NXT. If you add, you know, well, they got rid of they just merged the NXT Women's Championships. That would have been a nice little extra thing, but I maybe that would help. But outside of that, no. But I think you can get a night where you might get most of the matches might be women. You might get one or two men matches, but then like there are like 4 or 5 women matches, and it's like that's way more than anything.
Wrestling has more than one royal family.
Oh.